out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Ryan.
How ye be?
I'm fair.
Just fair. Do you think you could even attempt to do the Robert Pattinson accent?
Oh my god. It's like a weird lobster.
Yeah.
Kennedy sort of thing going on.
Wanted to hear you try.
I don't even know, man. It's so ridiculous.
Hello, everyone. That's
Hello.
not Tim.
Oh.
Sorry. Hello, everyone else who may be listening. Welcome to episode 63 of Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie,
And myself, Tim Aslin.
we dismember a horror film every week. And what does it mean to dismember a horror film?
Just pull that shit right apart.
Yep. We pull it out of a hat or go see a new movie in theaters. And then we pull it apart, as Tim said. We talk about what worked, what did not work, and anything else we found interesting or noteworthy. And we hope to just fill in the gaps of knowledge of things we haven't seen, things that people tell us we should see. Because, well, you know, there's a lot of movies out there, but picking a genre can help sometimes.
What a genre to pick.
Yep. And Tim, this is our first episode since we've watched all 4 Psycho movies.
It's true.
I gotta, now that it's, we're kind of separated from it a little bit, do you have any big takeaways or in summation thoughts, I suppose?
Man, mostly just that I think it's a cool reality that you end up really liking this character.
Yeah.
Even though he's killing people.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's that circular sort of aspect to the movies.
Yeah.
Like, that was cool.
Wait, what do you mean?
That you could kind of watch it in sequence, or, I mean, you could watch it continuously forever because the end is the beginning.
That was our big thing of thing of note from that was our own thing of note from the last episode.
It's good.
Yeah, I think it could be healthy and interesting to be rooting for someone who murders people. Because is he actually?
Right.
It's Norma, not Norman.
That's right. And there's a different thing where it's like, you're not rooting. He's not killing people who deserve it necessarily.
No.
So it's not like you're rooting for.
Sorry, yeah, that sounded right. It's like we're not rooting for him to kill people. We're just rooting for him to not kill people, to be better.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. No, the whole thing is cool.
Yeah.
Worth watching multiple
Great.
times.
So you're glad we did it?
Yeah.
All right. And I'll be excited to maybe cover another series next Halloween season.
What could it be?
Today, though, we got a lot to cover, Tim.
Oh my God.
We got to travel to an island, a far off island from here at the sunny West Coast. Indeed, travel back to the 1890s.
Yeah,
because we traveled to the Arclight to see the Lighthouse, and you saw it again because
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Circumstantially, I'll explain.
Yeah.
I was working a production job, and the day of the actual production was the day that we were going to see the movie. So when I got off of, a very crazy week, I met Ryan at the theater, and I was super, super exhausted. And I was trying really hard to concentrate to watch this movie. And then I started getting text messages and phone calls from the production because we still had stuff to do the next day. And I had to leave the theater and deal with it. And then I came back in and tried to catch what I could catch from the aisle, but I was still getting text messages. The whole thing was just a fucking shit show. So I basically didn't see, I'd say about maybe 10% of the movie, but like critical stuff, including the last maybe 2 minutes of the movie.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But then luckily the Americana saved the day, right?
Yes. So I then found time last night. I was able to go to a 8:55 showing at the Americana in Glendale and watch it again with full attention.
I'm jealous.
And yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Cool. I wish I could.
So I got to see everything. And very much so what I missed was so critical. Like, I was like, holy fucking that. Yeah, I needed to see that. So we could not be speaking now about it without last night's re-watching.
And I would have loved to see it again. I'll get into, all the reasons why. But yeah, I just saw just that one time. But it is a dense film, and I wanted to be able to talk about it thoroughly. So I've done as much outside research as I could. But Tim, you'll help provide maybe some more specifics as we get into it.
There's a lot. There's a lot that has nothing to do with the movie or the story. Or the story. It has to do with the movie, obviously.
Wait, what?
I'll explain.
Okay. Well, let's watch the trailer first.
Okay, cool.
So then we'll get into it. All right, here. You already guessed, we already said it. We watched The Lighthouse.
Tell me, what's a timberman want with being a wiki?
Just looking to earn a living, just like any man. Starting new.
On the run. Keeping secrets, are you?
No, sir.
Why don't you spill your beans? Why don't you spill your beans? Why don't you spill your beans?
That foghorn just puts me right back in it, you know?
Yeah, God,
It's like a kaiju.
I would not enjoy that.
That you would not enjoy the experience of the two gentlemen shared in this film.
No. You know what? I don't. I lived on Martha's Vineyard for a few summers when I was like in and just out of college, and
Doing
I
a cappella,
yeah,
right?
I probably talked about it before, but and it's great. There's so much cool stuff about that life and like being on an island and like New England and all of that stuff. But the dampness, that damp thing, it's nostalgic and it's cool to a certain degree, but it does get to you. At least it gets to me. Like there's a point where you go, I need it to be fucking dry. And sometimes it happens, right? Like during the summer in particular, but it's like
Sometimes it happens. You mean a whole nother season?
Yeah, exactly. But like, dude, there was one summer that it rained quite a lot, and it was just everything is soaked and damp and like got that wet wood thing going on, and it can get to you. It can get a little unnerving.
This is a movie about that.
I kept thinking about it when I was watching it the second time. I was just like, oh fuck, it's so damn. It's like literally raining like inside of the house. I'm just like, oh, I would hate that so much.
Well, can you segue that into an in-review summary to rate it?
Sure.
Or sorry, not in-review summary. In-review.
A rating. And review.
Yeah.
I think I would.
Per our rating system, would you avoid it, stream it, rent it, or buy it? What would you tell yourself to do, Tim? As of now,
man.
Which again, I just to say again, I always got to put this clarifier on when we go see the new films. Like, it stinks having to rate these new movies we just watched. Like, I think so many of the ones I've changed. They've only grown on me.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. There's something to movies like this that I kind of felt, I mean, not that these are similar movies at all, but I kind of felt the same way about Hereditary, where I was like, it's affecting in such a way that I'm like, I'm not really sure I want that. I'll see it again, but do I want to own it? But then I watched Hereditary again like months later, and I was like, oh shit, yeah. So I feel like that probably will be the case with this. So does that mean that can I say like preemptively that I'm gonna want to buy it?
Yeah.
I mean, shit, I already saw it twice for the most part. 2.9 times. No, 1.9 times. I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to say buy it because of some of the stuff I'll get into. But in particular, the style and the style referencing that I think is in there of the visuals.
Cool. That's what's, put it over the top for you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Because I feel like given enough time, I could probably go do a bunch of research, like hard deep dive research, and find the like filmic references that are being at least touched upon in this.
Yeah.
Which I think would be really fun, but very intense of a thing to do.
Well, yeah, Robert Eggers is a huge Ingrid Bergman
Shocking.
fan. So if you're looking for any ancillary research, I can start you off there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I gotta agree, Tim.
Yeah.
And it was that same buy it, because I had that same experience that I do with a lot of things where they're new and they come out, and I'm almost just kind of so... like just kind of shook. Like when we stepped out of the movie, it felt kind of like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like if you just saw like a UFO or a murder or something happen, and then like then you find yourself 10 minutes later, like at your aunt's birthday party, and you're just kind of, yeah, oh yeah, things are good. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah. And you're, we found ourselves just walking out into Hollywood, and it's just, ooh, okay. And it feels weird to go like, I need to catch my breath here because you're fine. But there are times when it was such an experience you were having, but then at the same time, it was all just so like different and new, and you couldn't understand half the dialogue, that you just like feel like you're figuring it out at the same time.
There is a lot that gets caught the second time you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a bunch of language shit where I was like, oh, right. Gotcha. Cool.
I use this as a frame of reference. I've used it as a frame of reference before, talking about films like Mandy and stuff. But as far as my research into the psychedelic experience, and that it's been it's a fascinating field, I think. And since it's something that's kind of becoming more and more mainstream, I think there's a lot of like, when you're talking about films nowadays and what they're doing and how they're like putting us into uncomfortable places, my mind always goes there. But it seemed like, kind of what I've heard again in the experience is like where you're on the line of like the cliff of letting go or staying where you are. And that movie kind of, reminded me, in theory, of that, that being on the edge and just being like, there's a spell happening, and you kind of just get taken away to this scary, far off place. But you're in you're there in a seat, so you're fine. I mean, but at the same time, something else is going on.
Yeah, I think for me at least, that's the point.
Yeah.
Like why go, that's why you go, or why you watch movies for me.
Right. And
is to get closer to that place.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I could stay broad, but maybe let's stay broad when we move into what worked or whatever, because there's more.
Yeah, definitely.
So rather than going here.
Should we give a...
But we got to get the summary out of the way.
Okay, so a summary. I mean, okay. I can do this. Okay, since I just watched it 12 hours ago. No, a little more than 12 hours ago. Okay. A guy on a boat gets dropped off on an island to work the lighthouse as the second to the old dude who works the lighthouse all the time. Right. He's there for a month. That's his
I'm confused
thing.
by that because at the beginning we see the two of them walking in there, but then we see another two people leaving.
I know.
That's just like that's the driver
So-
of the boat, huh?
The thought occurred to me after the fact to pay close attention to that specific moment. But what I think is happening is that Ephraim, let's call him Ephraim, who's Robert Pattinson, and
Ephraim Winslow.
right, and then let's call
Willem Dafoe's
Dafoe.
Thomas Wake.
yeah, even though he calls himself Wick, it's with the accent, which is
Thomas Wake.
purposeful,
Wick.
obviously, because he's a wickie, right? The person who lights the lamp. Anyway, so to your point, yes, I think what we're seeing is Ephraim and just like the inspector guy show up. Like we see a shot of the two of them on the boat before they get off. Mm-hmm. And then we see two guys carrying stuff away from the lighthouse and Ephraim and another guy going to the lighthouse. And then we see Ephraim and Thomas standing together watching the boat go away. Mm-hmm. So it is confusing because we hadn't quite established who's who yet, and it makes you think that the two guys that just arrived are Thomas and Ephraim. Mm-hmm. But it's not.
Got it.
It's Ephraim showing up, meeting Thomas, and them watching the boat go away, while the inspector who came with Ephraim
Okay,
and
got it.
and
What's
the other second leave, I guess.
All right.
Ugh.
And then they both of them go insane.
Well,
Over the course of the film.
then the film is that they're there for a month, and on the day before Ephraim is allowed to leave, like he's going to get his boat there, he fucking kills a seagull, and that changes the wind, and a nor'easter comes and basically isolates them there in perpetuity until whatever, because you're not supposed to fucking kill a seabird.
Because
it's bad luck.
The souls of the sailors exist in
And
them.
so from that point on, it's just we devolve into kind of madness.
And they both have an obsession with the actual like light in the lighthouse,
Yep.
the Fresnel lens, and they're like both like masturbating separately and kind of
Right.
like have their alone time and becoming suspicious of each other. And
There's a lot of folklore that's influencing how they view what's going on.
Thomas Wake, Willem Dafoe is trying to keep it away, the light away from Ephraim Winslow.
Or maybe rather trying to keep it to himself.
Yes, try to
for
keep,
himself.
Right, exactly.
That's a debatable point of view.
And it also seems like Thomas Wake, Willem Dafoe is deliberately confusing and trying to make
Almost.
Pattinson go
He
insane.
is most definitely doing that very fucking purposefully in his face.
Absolutely. I guess I phrased that wrong. The hesitation meant I was kind of like, and isn't he also going insane? Like Willem Dafoe on his own?
Yeah. I think you could argue that he already is insane.
Yeah. That was my take on it.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, it's definitely got some gray area.
I feel like
to it.
that was this whole movie for me. Is like Willem Dafoe, Thomas Wake is someone who's like, I'm already insane, but whatever, because that's just who I'm. And you know what? I'm just gonna have fun with it and bring everyone else into my world.
Yeah. Well, and what you kind of expect from the guy who lives by himself, tending to a lighthouse. You know,
Right.
Like. He's got to be 70.
And
right?
While I think
Maybe 60.
The interesting thing, just as far as the story progressing too, is like tensions are increasing, but also they're becoming closer.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, we should get into it because
All right.
I could just keep going on and on.
Great. All right. Yeah, that's enough. All right. Let's get into our first section. What worked?
What worked? What worked for you? What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
I think to that point that you're saying, the weaving of their relationship is incredibly like specific and intense and brilliant because of what you've just said. They are almost constantly at odds with each other and yet becoming closer and closer and closer. And I think part of that is sort of the funneling of what's making them close to each other is funneling toward madness.
Yeah, and
but also what's keeping them apart is this like grappling with the things that their personal points of view.
Right.
Those are where the conflict comes from, because Ephraim has one point of view about what he deserves, and Thomas has another point of view about his worldview, just the way the world is and should stay.
Yep, should stay, exactly. Very like, do not waver from this.
Yeah, and so that, I mean, holy fuck.
Well, Thomas,
that's just from a broad kind of conceptual point of view. There's so much you could peel apart or peel back from that and like see layer upon layer of how that, the implication of that in broad sort of senses towards the world that we live in.
Right.
Or toward literature, or toward just basic character, but like it's really, really kind of layered and endless.
Well,
that's an amazing.
This, I guess, to start from kind of like the outermost layer, what I observed, kind of Thomas, I think Willem Dafoe was doing to Robert Pattinson Ephraim, is he sees a sort of like defensiveness, guardedness that Robert Pattinson has. No, I won't drink. You know, I'm obviously like, he knows he's keeping some kind of secret, and we learn that he's actually like lying about his name and his backstory.
Right.
Robert Pattinson is. So that's what I saw, sort of the maybe some of the driving of that contention coming from. But if you wanted to pick a kind of, I think, a scene to maybe pull that apart some bit more, that like really did that sort of was emblematic in a lot of ways of that whole relationship, and the how we can dig into it was when they got drunk and they like almost kissed, and then they just immediately went into fighting or whatever again.
Yeah.
Like, if you know, to look at this from a sort of picking apart masculinity standpoint and all that.
Well, and Thomas
standpoint.
keeps saying things like, "How did somebody so pretty like you end up here? Like those big beautiful eyes," kind of thing. Like I'm not using the exact language, but he says these things about Ephraim a bunch.
Yeah,
and like, even just from a very non-metaphorical, non-like thematic point of view, that's what would happen, right? Like, you get a dude alone long enough, like, and then get somebody young and attractive in the room, they're gonna comment on it, at least.
Yep.
They're gonna have an opinion on it, at least. And loneliness is a real fucking thing.
Right.
So, like, the battle of, like, again, like what we just said, the battle between them being at conflict and them getting closer together can be applied to this scenario, right?
Yeah.
Like, they need to be close to each other because that's what humans do.
Well,
especially in this circumstance.
Right.
But there is context that makes them want to fight with each other.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take a drink, folk, every time I say this word this episode. The existential horror of it all, where you said that situation is, at this point in the movie, I'm pretty sure it's when they and we have no idea like how long they've been there. So it is essentially that
whole thing,
that existential crisis of what do you do when you're trapped in the same space with one other person for eternity, you know? And it's like them, and it's just sort of, and that's that kind of question in place of like sexual desire. What would those two people do in that situation?
Yeah.
And but at the same time, they still have context of the room and the space, and they know they got to keep this lighthouse lit. So it's like, oh, but we still got a job to do. Right. It's like that's that thread of sanity they're holding on to.
Yeah, and just the context of the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's late 1800s. Like that's its own specific time in the world.
Or
in history.
I got a handful of notes here just on the kind of horror it is, and again stemming from
That's
this,
good.
like super existential exploration of, confronted with the meaningless of life is how I guess I mean by that. But a lot of it has to do with, I think, and why this is, I think, a contemporary film in a lot of ways, or contemporary horror as far as this existential crisis. It really puts like a spotlight and microscope on the idea of like the point of existence is to commit yourself to drudgery of sort of work that, humans maybe aren't meant to do in a sort of evolved society. And
well, and to that point, Thomas Wake is the representation of, in this particular case, he really represents the old school of thought that is the life, that is your purpose in life.
Right. He's obsessed with that idea of purpose, right?
Even though he doesn't himself necessarily anymore like adhere to it, he's forcing it upon the next generation.
And Winslow he's more like going from job to job, and I felt like he was almost more the sort of struggling artist too. Didn't he draw or write or something, or want to do that?
He reads, and that's commented on. Oh, it didn't take you for much of a reader, kind of thing. It's like apparently that wasn't a thing, and he reads quite a bit in the first half of the movie.
And I think for
pleasure,
why those two sides are so contentious is because there's always truth in both. But I think like where, and this is where I think we're at a crossroads societally, evolutionarily too, as automation's happening more and more, yada, yada, our meaning of work is having to evolve and blah, blah, blah. But that obsession with purpose, like, I think that's meaningful as far as that is how we can sort of almost feel like we found meaning in life, but it is only truly there when we're also hitting that triumvirate of do we enjoy doing this, and is it of any value to the world? So
that, I think, is a huge factor in why this movie takes place at a lighthouse.
Yeah.
The purpose of a lighthouse is for the outside world to be able to find where they are. Mm-hmm. Right? And if nobody can find where you are, the purpose of the lighthouse ceases to exist, and therefore you maintaining it ceases to have any meaning or impact on the world. But that this idea of like, gotta maintain it, gotta just keep grinding, doing the thing. But like, it's sense. Pointless if nobody's receiving the thing, if you don't have the interaction with what the thing is meant to accomplish.
But it's like, I get it at the same time, because, I'm now, arguing against almost what I just said, is because at the time, historically though, in history, and sometimes what work is, it's just a matter of like, for the betterment of all of us, so these boats can see to get the food to where it needs to go, this lighthouse has to exist. So it is like a cause you're giving yourself over to, but I don't see it as like where humans should aspire to, I guess.
I agree. This is commented on in the movie a number of times. Mm-hmm. So like when Ephraim is held to task for not cleaning the floor of the house, and Thomas is just flipping out on him and being like, if I want you to pull up every board and spit shine every nail and put them back together and then do it all over again, like you will, because I fucking said so, and that's the way it is. That's the worst end of the spectrum of what we're talking about. Where it's like, you're just doing it because I said so. The other end that Ephraim comments on is when he's whitewashing the actual lighthouse, and Thomas is sort of like, make sure you get it nice and white so everybody can see it, and so that in itself is true. That's what you do that for, and it does serve a purpose. But even in doing that, Ephraim is like, nobody's gonna fucking see it. Because we're in the middle of fucking nowhere. And so he's kind of falling onto the wrong side of his point of view. Like, he's falling too far into what you're saying. It's like, there is a point, and it does serve a purpose. You gotta find the balance of why you do the work for that purpose, and when it's just monotonous bullshit work. And Ephraim in this moment can't distinguish the two. He just feels like all he's being asked to do is bullshit work.
Yeah.
That's just busy work to please Thomas, because he has this other world view that is just like put his fucking the boot on the neck of this kid. And so there's a lot of that grayness of like who feels where at what time based on what is actually serving the greater good and what is just them being assholes.
Yeah. Exactly. But you can see, I think, a big part of why Thomas, Willem Dafoe's character, is so rigid in that mentality is because he has combined that drudgery. It's like what you do in the face of that drudgery is like you need to find some sort of it forces you almost to find, like, for lack of a better word, God or the inexplicable in something. You know, it's like that's what the Fresnel lamp is, and whatever they see inside of it.
Enlightenment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In quotations, like
right, a higher power that's beyond explanation.
That's also why you pick a lighthouse.
Yeah,
right? It's like the metaphor is there. It's literal almost. But
I can see too, I think, as and again, take a drink, existential way, that fear of it's about fear of routine,
right?
And I think with a root. Okay, you know, I've talked to you off air. I like the idea of the psychological term Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh yeah,
do you remember? Like, take care of your base needs first, and then at the very top is of reaching, you know, where we can achieve to be. Ideally, taking care of base needs is a sort of what I said. Like, what is it more an offering or purpose once you're taking care of yourself? But even when you take care of those base needs and reach that level, let's say you have everything you need, and now it's just getting down to do the work. Even though it brings enjoyment, there also is a drudgery to it, like a routine. And I think that's so hard sometimes to fall into, because within that is a sort of acceptance of your mortality in a way, because it says, this is it. This is all I can do. Like, whatever sort of nagging feelings I have or whatever, that's just a part of the human experience. So this is now I just have to accept that, and you know, there's nothing else I can do. Here's my purpose, time to set to work.
Well, and I think there's sort of two sides to that coin.
Well, sorry, and just to make the point, stay on that, but I meant to end that with saying that is just really interesting to me, because that's like almost a fear we have of reaching the top, of like having that's the head trip for me that I love a lot.
Are we going to be able to look into the light and not fall backwards down the fucking lighthouse?
Yeah.
That's scary, because I think a lot of people think the answer is no.
Yeah.
And we don't know, because we generally don't, like, that's not an actual, like, it's like what we're striving for, but there's no end. There is no actual, like, end moment.
And like then you're going through that, and just because this is the kind of work I'm doing right now, you just kind of have to turn back to the computer and go, well, I guess I'm just going to keep sorting this footage and editing this footage, whatever I'm working on.
Yeah, I think there's an aspect of this. There's two sides of this, which are explored. Routine without reward is sort of where Ephraim's coming from. He's like, that is not any way to live. And he's been jumping from job to job looking for more reward to kind of justify the routine. Thomas is like, the routine is the reward. That swabbing and having it be clean and pristine is the reward.
I mean, that honestly,
and it's like,
that is like the Buddhist spiritual kind of Taoist, that is it. Like,
I know.
finding that's joy in the present.
But I think Ephraim's character is really fighting against that, where he's you know, this is kind of a typical younger generation, you know, place to be in your mentality, that you grow into learning that there is reward just in the act of the routine.
Yeah.
and he's not there. All he can see is the shiny thing at the top of the tower.
Yeah.
And go, well, what? I want to know what that is. And that's a very young man sort of mentality. Mm-hmm. So you do have this separation.
It's like chasing the high, but it's no, you gotta pay attention to what you're doing.
But I think the movie is so good at showing the pitfalls of going too far in either of those directions. Mm-hmm. And then like the hypocrisy around both of those attitudes that these two characters exhibit. Like constantly.
Like when? Let's talk about a moment.
I mean, just Thomas being such a fucking hard nose for all of this shit work, so to speak. And then being so demanding about what he does, what his role is. He mans the light. He's the only one who has access to it, that it's the most important job there. And then when he's up there, he's just jerking off.
Literally. He's just fucking jerking off or like pulling his clothes off and, standing up in the light. He's just being as much as he purports to maybe have that belief. I mean, you can have that belief, but then at the same time, it's like he's just still just chasing his own high too. Yeah. It's like that's his end of the day beer drink is go up, get naked, whack off to the light. Yeah, and the there's some interesting stuff just to me in the kind of the hierarchy and Western hierarchy of authority, and that like, oh, well, I've earned my station and therefore I don't have to do anything anymore. And my job is really just to tell you what to do. Right. I think I have never done well with that. Like it's not I don't particularly like it. Like when I'm in charge of a thing, I actually got yelled at by our key grip on the last set because I kept trying to do things like help move things or like go get a thing that somebody needed. And the key grip finally was like, dude, you're the director. You don't do that. We do that. We work for you. It's not a natural state for me. I've never had the pleasure of working with a crew like that. Dude, it was, it blew my mind when he said that. I was like, whoa. I should say size crew, maybe. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I've also said not great. It's PAs. Not in my personal sort of like makeup to not want to be a part of the work. It's so God. That's how I would do it if I was a PA. There's a lot of people who fucking believe that idea. I quote unquote paid my dues. Now I don't have to lift a finger, and I fundamentally do not like that attitude. I think it breeds contempt and resentment, and it's not a good look for any sort of business or whatever. This makes me want to just, I've already talked to you about. No, it makes me want to like just hire the crew you had. Because honestly, they're amazing. When I've PA'd on things, I'm like, yeah, dude, like if I'm talking to you as your PA, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I totally feel you because I feel the same way. But listen, like if the movie's just that much better because you have that much more thought space instead of thinking about moving this thing across the room, like, that's valid. Yeah. And what makes it, then what takes away that guilt that like, I'll have two like you is when you have PAs like, no, this is my job. Like, like, dude, this is, and I'm happy to do it. That's right. No, and that's really important. But keeping that, so the movie that we're talking about basically does the opposite. It builds that divide between authority and subservient, worker. Yeah. And that was a very big deal at that time in the world, right? Like automation or industrialization and having like, it's Metropolis, right? You have the hordes of workers just doing this bullshit, monotonous shit over and over and over again, and like punching their shift card and leaving, and like that industrial time was. I mean, this movie is indicative of that time. I mean, it takes place in that time, right? So I don't mean the time of Metropolis, but Metropolis when it was made and what it was talking about is sort of, it's sad. It reminds me of a video I just saw today of workers, like in China or somewhere, but it can be anywhere. They were just putting socks on like a metal like expander thing, like for whatever part of the process that is, something that could totally be automated. And they were just like leaning on one arm with their shoulder down, just with one hand, just taking a sock and putting it on this thing, taking a sock, putting it on this thing. And it's like, yeah, there is like, yes, that is a true thing. Like Willem Dafoe's character Thomas is saying, like, yes, you can take pride in work, but that toil that he's speaking of, like, you can only really take pride in it when either it's a must for society or there's a new purpose behind it.
Or the reward is the shared experience of making a thing, which I think is why filmmaking is so rewarding.
Right. Right. What's the end goal? And that's the difference between working on a film that's like a bad film, maybe that's only being made to make money, or something that's aspiring for more. Yeah. Like you feel that in the execution and what you're all doing there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, shit.
And like this very movie, to get meta, is like, we'll get into the things of note, the actual production of it, but it's like, no, that you just got to throw yourself into it, so to speak. The wares. Okay, so to stay broad but shift broadly, because we talked about, again, take a drink, that existential horror of it. Then I have the whole other side of why this movie was so effective as a horror movie to me, was the ambiguity of the situation. Is this real? Is this not real? Are we trapped in some sort of nightmare? Like,
there is so much going on in the movie. Like, it's just even trying to sort of collect your thoughts and go, okay, where do we start with any topic? Is really hard.
Well, so, I mean, I guess still, I'm just speaking to my experience here as far as these broader, how it affected me. But I realized, it was cool. It sort of reminded me I was trying to think of other movies that affected me this way, as far as where it felt like you were almost sort of trapped in a nightmare, where it hit you on this kind of really like deep emotional level that can only kind of come from what I call a forced illogic, where it's beating you with this trying to make sense of it,
Sure.
And these are some of my favorite movies now, but like a recent one that will remind me of was Mother, exclamation point at the end, then Mulholland Drive, and then one of our new favorites, Possession.
Oh yeah.
Those are the three.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty more, and they'll all be my new favorite films if I haven't seen them. But that's what I came up with, as that helps with any kind of comparison. But then more is as far as the ambiguity of the situation, like for, example, the mermaid and any of the like the supernatural stuff, the presence of the mermaid, and like seeing the head in the cage, seeing Willem Dafoe as the sea creature,
the tentacles.
So all that, I realized that I felt so much more affected than I would be is if the movie had just been like, this is for sure what's happening, because that ambiguity, it makes it so like, for whatever, there's less disassociation for me when I'm watching it, because when it's clear cut, I'm able to go, oh, this is just a movie I'm watching, this is happening in this movie. But something about that extra layer of not being sure, like, what's up and what's down anymore, it just made me feel that much more because I don't know if this is real, it could be real that much more.
Yeah. This type of movie is sort of some of my favorite style of thing, specific to what you're saying. The what the fuck is going on ambiguity, but also cased in these really, really specific thematic ideas.
Yeah.
Is so pleasing to me for some reason, because it almost is a mystery, which I love. Like, I love a mystery, but it's a trip, right? Like, we're going on this person's sort of journey, And it doesn't matter what's real in a way because we're experiencing the world with them. And that's what we're doing all the time, right? As humans, right? If we didn't have other people to be like, are you hearing what I'm saying and acknowledging it? What's the difference between that expression and the thoughts in your head?
Yeah.
Like, is
That's
what
why-
I'm seeing,
yeah.
quote unquote, real versus the thing I just imagined?
That's
Like,
why
it's all fucking real
it drives
to you.
It drives me crazy. You just remind me when you ask someone a question and it's like you don't even get a like, oh, just give me a sec. They'll just like ignore you for like 7 seconds. You know, it just like it makes me feel that kind of just intense loneliness and
Yeah.
insanity.
Oh man.
So, okay, but like that's so, since that was my head state where I'm just so susceptible to the horrors and what's happening or not happening, like, okay, the mermaid, I felt just appropriately terrified. So this guy, Robert Eggers, it's just like he's got this bag of tricks now, I want to say, where like in The Witch, one of the more affecting moments, it was like the exact same with the first appearance of the mermaid, where it's like you have the womanly presence of questionable or ill intent emerging from the distance and like walking closer. Or in the case of the mermaid of this, you know, was swimming closer and closer. And then just as you're like starting to get under its spell and like this isn't right, it cuts and you're somewhere else. But that was just, I love that. But then even, you know, then when it subsequently showed up in tentacles were going and it screamed and all that. But Tim Winnick, like, all that was great. But like, especially just when Willem Dafoe showed him as a sea creature, I just felt so unnerved.
Yeah.
Like that was, I don't know.
Well, that's because barnacles are fucking gross.
Right? But
And things of the sea are unnatural to us. That's a
Yeah.
really important thing, right? Like that's why there's this whole world of
it's unfamiliar. It's
Right.
that they're natural in the sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah,
You're
they're natural.
saying what I'm saying.
They're natural in the sense of they are like they are real world. They're rock based. They're organic. Yet they're so just different and unfamiliar to us. But it was also just his expression of him laughing. It was just that kind of horror of having no certainty as to what they felt about you, except you got the sense that it was they do not mean you well.
Yeah.
You know, that's the scariest thing to have sort of communicated at you viscerally
That's
is I don't care one way or another about you. And Willem Dafoe just lying there.
That's because Ephraim is not of the sea. Mm-hmm. Like specifically over and over that sort of reinforced that this is not his world. Mm-hmm. And yet he's totally under the spell of it.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't be there. He doesn't know what it's like to be on the sea. Like he doesn't know he kind of intellectually knows the lore, but he doesn't know the life.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. And so all these symbols for the sea are foreign to him, and he keeps fucking it up. And even in his quote unquote, whether you think they're dreams or they're real or fantasies or whatever, even those are sort of perversions within his mind. Like the mermaid should be this sort of beautiful like thing that you if you saw a mermaid you'd go under its spell and you know it'd be this wonderful experience, and yet it's flipping on him where it starts screaming in his face, right? It
I don't know. I always saw them
the
as
siren, you know.
Yeah, I always saw them as the sirens in that sense of how I understood the folk tales was that they are always sinister.
But
or scary.
but that's what I'm saying is that he fantasizes about them, and then he's got it wrong, right? When he's sort of,
right, because he has the little statue he finds. Yeah,
so he's removed from it and doesn't know the reality, and then when he's faced with the quote unquote reality, he's like, oh fuck, it's not what I thought it would be.
Right, I mean,
which is sort of symptomatic of the whole fucking movie, right? Everything he thought would be in this job is not.
I mean, it's horrible. Like, I get it. I told you, like, I wouldn't last very long if the siren was the bad guy, or because it's like You get it where it's
Yeah.
like all of a sudden you see him once he goes through like knowing what it is, he's still like that has sex with it. Like
That's right, yeah.
He's like, well, it's maybe horrifying, but it's kind of a woman and it's not gonna kill me.
Well, that's just, oh man, I'm like gonna shoot into a million different directions.
Well,
but
also just do you want to pick one of them?
I think that one that is, you know, there's a bunch of really broad thematic things that are reinforced over and over and over again. There's a bunch of them. So it's almost like, holy fuck, how do you even, like, where do you start? But that one in particular really is, and this is shown in various ways, like kind of on the spectrum of like good to bad or what moral to immoral or what perverse to not perverse or whatever you want to call it, whatever the scale is. But like the desire thing, the theme of what it means to desire something or to resist your desires is really important because there's guilt inherently involved in desire and how you deal with desire. Mm-hmm. So like you could put this up against so many of the things that go on in this movie and so many of the story points, right? Like, or character points. Like Ephraim wanted to kill the other Tom, not Tom, what's his name? Shit. The dude, the blonde dude who he was logging with, who he let die on the river during the log jam. I can't remember his name.
I forget that. Oh, you mean like the name of the person he takes was Thomas Howard?
Oh, so right, that's right.
Yeah.
No, so that guy's name was Ephraim. He stole his name.
Right. So,
okay, so that's why it gets...
Robert Pattinson is actually...
It definitely gets confusing.
Who we've been talking about as Ephraim is actually Thomas Howard.
Right.
That's why I thought also...
I know.
I thought we should stick to using their last names.
I know, it's confusing.
Because in all this prep, I was thinking Wake and Winslow.
Right. No, that's probably good. So, but Winslow let a guy that he wanted to kill, that he had the desire to kill and resisted that desire, he let that guy drown and get caught in the logjam. And he's standing on this principle of like, well, I didn't kill him, but I didn't stop him from dying.
I mean, that's one
So to me, one of the bigger like through line themes for Winslow's character is that idea of desire and guilt and the shame that's around that. I mean, I guess it's all of these things, but it all kind of stems from the root of desire and what you resist and what you don't resist.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's constant. Like everything that goes on in the movie is a reflection of, for Patterson, for that character, is reflected in that. Like those things are every act he does is an expression of guilt or desire or shame revolving around the same few things. Right. Do I do what I'm supposed to do, or should I give in to my desires?
Well, it's that, should I do what I'm supposed to do or do nothing almost? That's why it's such a, I mean, how you just laid it out, that's made me realize I connect to it in this whole other level, is that guilt and shame where we feel like that can only come from when you get in the trap where it's like, oh, well, that only comes from when I do things that are wrong. But then you realize that you experience, oh wait, inaction can count as doing something wrong, and that's just a personal, like, I don't know, horror trigger thing for me. I don't know.
And exactly, and that's all of Willem Dafoe's character is telling him that.
Yeah,
you can't be inactive because that's bad.
Right. And he's jostling. He's like, take a drink. Come on, drink with me. And then he's like, come on, keep dancing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is constantly reinforced. It's so brilliant that it's like hard to even, like, you could go through the script and every moment is pointing at this, but that doesn't mean that that's like what the movie's about. Like there's a billion fucking things going on.
Yeah.
But that's a very core element for sure of Patterson's character. Mm-hmm. Without question. And I think the lighthouse symbolism is really, really, the amazing backdrop to that thing, because, to be really rote about it, it's avoiding having a light shined on the thing that he doesn't want to fucking look at.
Because it's pure. You could tie that energy is pure extroversion, is when you can't look at something, which is how I connect it to in Robert Eggers. All the times he summarized what the film is, he was, it's about two people blah, 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 inside of a giant phallus.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
God, I mean, yeah, it's kind of. I think that it kind of freaks me out, because we've talked about this before, where we can pick it apart. Good art can be picked apart endlessly.
Yeah.
And then you think about the actual intention and how much of what we are getting from the art was intended or even thought about by the artist. And I don't know, sometimes it is, or it's literally just what he says. He's like, yeah, it's just a movie about two guys in a phallus. Right? Actually, and that's all he focused on. Right. But because he's so well-versed in all of these different things, storytelling, and it's just in him because he's absorbed it from all of the stuff he's done or researched or learned or whatever, that it comes out.
No, I can confirm he definitely wants things to be open to interpretation and prefers
that's cool.
Those kinds of films. And everything you also said is also true as far as absorbing and regurgitating.
Yeah.
And
so to me, and maybe this is my sort of way of kind of wrapping up the broader stuff, that these bigger themes like desire and guilt and what it means to be sane and what it means to be connected to somebody or to be isolated, they're all kind of the two sides of these series of coins or doubloons or whatever you want to call them. And the next sort of category, so those sort of topics lay on top of the movie for me, and then the next thing down is things like, in terms of storytelling, like how you tell a fable, or like what sin means in fables or fantasies and dreams, and all of that stuff is like the next layer of this movie. Yeah. And so all of the symbolism, all of these storytelling sort of images is the next big thing where I'm like, holy fuck, there's so much of that too.
So to broach that then, like when you speak into, well, what does a fable leave you on? It's the end moment.
Right.
So what do you make of him getting picked apart in one eye by a seagull?
By the way, I didn't realize this, but I read in the Wikipedia that the seagull that he kills is a one-eyed seagull.
It's the one-eyed seagull. What do you mean?
But I didn't know that it was a one-eyed seagull.
It's the same one. It's a character. It's one eye.
But when is that ever stated in the movie? Or are we just supposed to see that it only has one eye?
Yeah, we just keep seeing it's the same seagull.
I knew it's the same seagull, but I didn't know that seagull only had one eye. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you just
I
missed.
Just didn't. Yeah, I didn't. It didn't. Maybe I was looking at its beak the whole time.
I mean, yeah,
I didn't realize it had only one eye, which is so fucking cool.
No, seagulls, yeah.
Because it is like it's like a sailor with a patch.
Yeah.
Like all of those things. I love all that shit.
I mean, as soon as I got the, like, you know, the ending, as far as, you know, again, take a drink, existential horror, being trapped in a loop almost. I mean, my favorite read that I like to go to is somehow he's, you know, that soul that is in the seagull, and that's
oh man, like it's a loop.
He's killing himself.
Right.
Yeah,
definitely. Hell yeah.
That's my favorite.
But that's
take
just
on
it, man. There's so you could fucking.
Well, yeah.
There's so much.
That's exactly what you said. Where it was like, you love also when things are mystery, and it's like any take is not going to be necessarily an incorrect one. It's
right. My take on the final image. Oh man. I mean, everything leading up to kind of what I'd just said about like seeing the light, so to speak, in that very rote kind of metaphorical way of him getting up to see the thing that he's been desiring and having it be too much.
It breaks his brain.
Right. The final image of him laying in the rocks, blood and shit covered, bird shit covered, and being pecked apart.
So emaciated too.
Yeah, is kind of just, to me, like just desserts for his actions. It's like, I'm trying to think of, I'm sure in literature there is a
No, I'd say like
easy comparison to make, but like that's what he deserved.
It's how you're describing it. I mean, that was my immediate takeaway, where it was just a perfect little, yep. You know, it was just like the natural ending. As you said, it was just desserts. I mean, I wasn't sitting there going like, oh my God, it's him and he's dropping the loot. That was only on kind of.
Sure.
Oh wait, he did only have one.
But there's definitely, I don't know. There's something, maybe it's just that the image feels familiar to me, and that's weird.
It's an especially karmic just desserts as far as it's seagulls killing him.
Sure. But like him laying prone in that sort of, it feels like a piece of artwork from like sort of Renaissance-y era. But I don't know what that would be. But I bet you there's some fucking, painting about the sea.
Yeah, it was I don't have this in a thing of note, so I don't mind jumping ahead to this. But in one of the interviews I was watching, I spent all morning just watching the press interviews and stuff. But the interviewer was like, I think he said, I heard somewhere, he's talking to Robert Eggers, where he was saying about how his films, they're like, the intention almost was to make you feel like, or someone's take on it was that it's like when you see a lot of the imagery, it feels like a memory that you've had, but yet it's of a time you didn't live in. And so the reviewer's like, well, how's that even possible? And he said, you know what? I feel that exactly when I see your movies. I feel like it's some kind of, and then,
I have a theory about part of why that is in this movie in particular.
I mean, Robert Eggers is super, I won't say he's super into it, but he said he's definitely well-versed in ideas of collective consciousness.
Yeah.
That's where my mind goes to.
Dude, that image of when Patterson is having this sort of... Pattinson, whatever, is having his little meltdown, and he's in a dream sequence of his own where I forget the moment right before this, but he climbs up to the lighthouse and he sees a body laying there on the outer catwalk thing, or whatever you would call that, and he turns him over and it's himself.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets grabbed and turns around and it's naked Willem Dafoe with the lighthouse light coming out of his eyes and shining on him.
That was so cool, Tim.
And then they're not on the scaffolding or whatever you call it, the railing anymore. They're just down on the rocks for that shot. Yeah. It's mind-bendingly amazing.
That was one of the best parts. Like Willem Dafoe, it's just like all like standing there like Poseidon,
exactly.
Just eyes gleaming.
That's right.
Oh,
and like the light, his eyes being the light that's shining into Pattinson's face is so broadly symbolically amazing. Right? Because it just says, you don't have to really even pick it apart. It just says everything you need it to say in this one image. And that's what I mean, where it's like, this imagery it feels like it's some famous fucking thing that we've seen before, but it's not.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, I wasn't even thinking as well, like you just heard me exclaim, I'm like, this is cool. This is the coolest thing ever, but that imagery.
I think that Eggers must be just so either geniusly just in and of himself and how he sees things, or has dived so deeply into art history and like film history, and like that all of this imagery is just already sort of embedded in him, and he knows how to pull those things, the greatness of all that stuff that has come before us, and create a new thing.
I absolutely get the sense that he has done that. I mean, he was working in theater, like kind of as a designer, art director before too. But I'll also mention the things of note. As a tease, he's also very well researched, I believe, in a more esoteric,
interesting
area.
Ooh, cool.
Which I think is sort of the like, because there's, I mean, we're all those kinds of, you know, fans of
Hell yeah.
of things like that. So,
Well,
but sometimes it just takes that little bit of, I think, off the esoteric thinking to kind of give that little bit of you got to be a little open to magic to to sort of show that to conjure that in magic terms.
Oh shit. So this is my way of leading us into talking more about specific shot composition.
How is shot?
And I think first and foremost, you have to just make note of the fact that it's shot in 4:3, so it's a box. It's not a rectangle, right?
I think it might even be a little tighter than 4:3. I forget what it was.
Well, yeah.
Called.
What was film? Old film was.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I'm my friend, the cinematographer that I work with, and I were talking about this the other day, and how the innovation of film, you know, as it progressed, and like the mechanism of film cameras and all of the shit that they did to try and just figure out new ways and better ways to do it is just so fucking cool. It's such a cool time to think about. Like ideas like turning the fucking film, or like increasing the shutter speed and the gate size in the camera so that smaller portions of the film stock are captured per frame so that you can have a wider image. Like this is mocking the style that was previous to some of those innovations.
Well, as the director says, it's not just that. It's not just making it is making it old timey, but in addition, that aspect ratio, it's as perfect for shooting a lighthouse and two gaunt faces.
Yeah.
You know,
Hell
something tall. What I just like, as far as the black and white too, I mean, I'm more and more just becoming a fan of black and white when you're using either, you know, fantasy or supernatural elements. It just makes it come that much more alive in a way. Like I'm much more a big fan of the Fury Road black and chrome. Like that's when I really sank into the world for the first time. So again, when it was the tentacles and Willem Dafoe Barnacle Man, I just got like so shook up because it seemed that much realer thanks to the black and white.
Yeah.
The first shot that I mean, how it was shot grabbed me from the beginning. But I remember one shot that's jumping up to me now, that's probably one of the more major shots as executed, was when it, like the camera goes up alongside the lighthouse all the way to the top.
It's an amazing shot.
That was cool.
Because it has 3 points of access on it. It starts in like a 2-shot of them, and then it pans and dollies left in both of those axes all the way to the lighthouse, and then goes straight up along the side of the lighthouse. And it's just like, it's so fucking trippy. And like, both times I did see that shot, both times I watched it. And the second time I was looking to see if there was a trick in it, like a cut or sort of some sort of...
No, man, it's 2019.
Dude,
we can do it now.
It's so fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any more?
It's so perfect.
I have other moments I wanted to bring up, but any other shots for you?
So a lot of what my big takeaway was, without being an expert in this, but there are so many shots and cuts that are at minimum, they are, how do you put this? They feel like they are direct references to films of the 20s and 30s that I've seen. A lot of Buster Keaton stuff, a lot of Chaplin stuff, and a lot of Bergman stuff. And like, so a couple specifics, and I'd have to go back and really go deep into trying to see how close they actually are. But the impact of them made me go, oh, I've seen this, but just in that other movie. Also, all those movies are the same aspect ratio, so I think there's something to all of that. One of the opening shots, when we cut from the wide of the lighthouse to the close-up of the front of the boat in the water,
So violent and extreme.
amazing. But I feel like that shot is super, super similar. Maybe it's the lens that they're using, all of the above, whatever, I think it's The General, which is a Buster Keaton movie, and they cut really hard to the front of the locomotive going down the tracks. And it's like the same jarring, loud fucking like right in the face of this moving thing that's sort of symmetrical like that. It's stuff like that. When Ephraim we don't see this, but we see the horn. What's it called?
The foghorn?
The foghorn, thank you. We see the foghorn, and you don't quite have a sense of scale when you first see it. And then Ephraim like pops his head out of it, and we're in profile, and he's super small. It's like you go, holy shit, this thing is huge. I swear I've seen that shot. I don't know if it's from like a Chaplin movie when he comes out of like the...
Wait, sorry. So are you just saying because these shots, you felt you had seen them before, they worked for you? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, essentially what I'm saying is the vibe of these shots harkens back to the vibe of very sort of famous or impactful shots from that era of filmmaking. And there's something that, like the thing that works for me about it is the feeling that it gives me, because I'm like, oh yeah, this is that era of filmmaking. To me, it almost felt like we were watching a movie from that time.
Well, that for me, it's like, it's smart in the way because I feel like so much modern film, like there's, so many great movies being made still, but there's something, I mean, maybe you could back me up on this, but like, it felt like films back then, they weren't so afraid of pretense. Like now I feel like just as a society, we're so afraid of like taking things seriously. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like as if we'll identify with it too much if it's someone else doesn't like it, or and then when something is great, it is the most amazing thing ever immediately.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like back then it was like, no, we were allowed to, like, maybe it's more people were generally, religious or spiritual, and we've kind of had a crisis in that sense in Western society of like feeling like we only are allowed to be cynical and, in that sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lack of cynicism in it, it feels.
Yeah. So just like I don't know. And it's interesting how film maybe helps out in that sense because, that allows us maybe a more safer space the example of this film. Oh, this film I saw way long ago was super impactful on me. I believe films can have this much impact, let alone, just a shot in a film, an imagery. So I believe in going for it. Like you have to, that's the thing with films too. Like you can't half-ass it. Like even, I think that's the other thing too of what we're afraid of. We're afraid like more and more today to give things our all. So we just sort of like half do it.
Yeah.
But we know, I mean, all the sage advice out there, like all the quotes out there. It's like, no, if you're going to do something, do it right.
Yeah.
And that can mean doing it right. Like I just said, having to give something pretense, which we use the word pretentious as a negative now.
Right.
When it's my favorite thing is like, like how extreme this movie was, it's like, I'm all about that.
Yeah. I mean, it almost would be, just silly to go through, like the whole movie is incredibly shot thing. So it's like hard to even, I'm like thinking just now as you're saying all of this, it's like every moment that I'm like, and this, and this, and this.
General
forever.
Things of how it was shot that just I loved was whenever they were like walking through the fog and like how the sky looked, how it was just so grainy and the way they kind of like were enmeshed with the fog.
Yeah.
I love that.
There are tracking shots. Dude, when Willem Dafoe is chasing him across this weird landscape that we hadn't seen yet, it's almost a beach. It feels actually like a tracking shot from how the West or All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm like, it's stuff like that where I'm like, holy, where are we? And it looks amazing. The way he, like the speed of it, the way he's limping, he's got sort of his weird stiff leg thing. And
oh, yeah.
Just, I mean, the whole fucking thing is just kind of frame to frame amazing to look at. Which it makes me go, how the fuck do you do that? But I think you just,
make all
you're just doing it.
You just make all the elements right, and then that's when
God.
When it happens.
Any time they're in the fucking lighthouse and the way the inside of the tower is lit is fucking like mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
It feels very much like some of the stuff we watched, like Black Cat, like of that era, that gothic sort of early Universal horror era. Part of that's just because it's black and white and because it's inside of a castle, essentially.
Well, it's playing with shadows, the attention that's brought to that.
But dude, there's a shot where it's early too. I think it may be one of the first shots inside the lighthouse where it's just the camera is looking. How do you describe this? The camera is eye level and then just goes straight up. So we continue to look perpendicular to the direction the camera is going. And every stair that you see is illuminated because it's illuminated from the top down. And when you're below the stair, it's dark. And the second you cross the threshold of the surface of each stair, it's like a light turns on because you now can see it. And like being in black and white allows you to do stuff like that and have it be so impactful because the contrast is 100%.
Yeah.
Shit like that, I'm just like, it fucking, what the fuck?
Right.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's sort of, the two examples. I was just thinking a lot of Qui-Gon recently, where it's like, that's an example of if you're going to have color, really use color.
Yeah.
And this is an example of when you don't have color, that's... it allows you to draw out the emphasis and all the other elements more. Yeah. That's great.
Well, and the perfection of execution of the use of light is extraordinary to me. There's a shot toward I think it's it's not this. I think it's the second to last time Ephraim goes up the stairs. It's not the final one because he's kind of crawling in the final one. But he's creeping up there. Maybe it's when he's going to try and pick the lock. But he's in total darkness. You can kind of see the rim of his figure lit. Does, you know what I mean by that? He's got a rim.
I'm not going to remember right now.
Doesn't matter. But his face is in darkness until he hits a certain level, and it's like a perfect. He hits this perfect little oval of light that we didn't know was there because of how it's shot, and just shit like that. Where I'm like, getting that down, like as the crew and like the DP, like, and getting it right and perfect. Must have taken a fucking while.
Yeah, especially with black
so
and
good.
white, it's like you're paying that much more attention to how much is something lit. Yeah.
Oh, dude, and there are a lot of shots where everybody's in darkness, right? Like the figures are in darkness and their faces are in darkness, but like I said, the rim of light that's sort of cast along the edge of their bodies from behind is just enough to make out their form. And then stuff behind them is lit in either like really cool washes, like or like what do you call it? Like beams of light kind of are going across the background behind them. Shit like that. It's just like it really, really like talk about wanting to jerk off over something. I mean, like shit.
We're doing plenty of that with this movie here.
Fucking
it's
hell.
okay. Well, then the whole other dimension, aside from how it's shot, is how it sounded. God. I was that first lighthouse blare that you heard in the trailer, and I'm like, of course it was great. But then like what got me is the first time we're inside that little cabin of theirs and you just hear their boots on the wood. I was just like clapping on the inside. Like honestly, I don't have to say much more about the sound other than why I just didn't want to not acknowledge it at least.
The beauty of knowing when to have sound and when not to have sound, and when to have like these low frequency rumbles, just how effective that stuff is. And then, you know, when the foghorn layers in, and the unrelentingness of it at times.
The weather too.
The waves, the sound of waves, the sound of rain.
Remember when it's so great when the waves bust through their window?
Yeah.
Love that. More specific moments I loved, and this really worked with the black and white, was when he opens the well or the cistern, and it's like the dead gulls in it, and you just see this black sludge. Yeah. It was just so
well, it's great visceral. Too, because the last time we had seen that shot is when he is poured, I guess it would, I don't know what it would be, like lye or something like that to clean out the cistern.
Oh, yeah.
And it's white, and it's in, because of black and white, the cloudy swirliness of the lye, I'm going to say it's lye. I have no idea what it is. The powder he puts in there in the dark, dark water is just fucking cool. Like, it's just a cool, I would be like, that's a painting that I would put on the wall. It's just fucking cool looking. And then the next time we see it, it's this murky, disgusting bird dead mess of feathers and blood and sludge and grime. It's so cool.
Something about like what we talked about at the opening credits of Qui-Gon, just that, you know, that's again was all color and really used the color just as far as swirls of patterns, whatever that is. There's something, I don't know, that sort of opens you up to the other side, I think, because it's such a, I don't know. It's something about, it's seeing nature and patterns, like pouring ink into something. It's just how it's, you see it tendril out.
Yeah.
God, I don't know. There's a better way to put it, there's an actual way to put what I'm trying to say. Another moment I really, really loved, just because I don't think I'd ever seen this done before. Granted, I don't think I haven't actually seen the movie Gaslight that we get the term from, but I had never seen where someone committed such immediate gaslighting. Dude. Where it's like he just goes see something, and then Willem Dafoe's all, oh no, it wasn't that, or it's been this long. Like, I forget, what was that exactly?
There's three very blatant examples of this
where it happened just so immediately, though, like where we're just
and the last one is the one that is like makes your brain just fall apart, because it's like he just said now I cannot remember exactly what it is, but it's like Pattinson comes in and says, oh, I know what it is. It's after he's been chased with the axe by Willem Dafoe, and they get inside and they're sort of having it out, and Pattinson is saying, you know, you're fucking crazy and you're ruining me. And then he sort of pleads with him, please don't do that. And he goes, you just fucking, you know, you took an axe to our lifeboat.
Right.
And Willem Dafoe goes, you just took an axe to our lifeboat.
That's the moment I'm talking about.
Holy fucking shit.
Well, it's like the whole movie, we want to kind of be almost a part of us always wants to be able to trust Willem Dafoe, you know? So just to have him...
Dude.
Just to have him so blatantly do that, it puts us like what you said, or it's like, okay, actually our jumping off point is he's insane, or he's just insanely manipulative or psychotic, or all the above, most likely all the above.
Right. Dude, yeah. The other two times, I can't remember the first one.
It's fine.
They're a little more, just minutely more nuanced.
It works up to it. Yeah.
Holy fuck. It is a really jarring thing to experience.
Well, you wonder what if maybe more the gradual gaslighting is when he says, telling tales of merfolk and the like. It gets you to go... I meant to bring this up earlier. There's something really effective about we never have Robert Pattinson going to Willem Dafoe being like, I saw a mermaid, you know?
Right.
But yet at the same time, so we never... quite know, does Willem Dafoe's character, like, it could really easily go as like, oh, he's seen a mermaid, you know, like, or we think he's just like, oh, these are just tall tales, like that is ambiguous, but never acknowledged. And I think that really was a smart choice if it was a choice.
Yeah, and this sort of gets me into thinking about all of the interactions between the two of them. That like the intensity of them is amazing. Like I don't even know. Like, for example, there's a billion examples, but for example, when Willem Dafoe says, "Hey, I saw you fucking around with that seagull. Don't do that. It's bad." And they have just said what you said, the tall tales thing. And then Pattinson says again, yeah, tall tales under his breath, and gets slapped across the face by Willem Dafoe. And then there's this moment where he jumps up and he looks like he's going to fucking just pulverize Dafoe. And Dafoe sees this and he dips his head down and he just starts eating. And it's like eating in that his mouth is all fucking weird. Food like falls out of his mouth in the middle of him sort of saying, he doesn't really say I'm sorry, but he's sort of like, I'm serious, but maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's sort of this weird tail between the legs moment. Mm-hmm. But dude, those things, it's just...
Well, it's like what you already said, that's set up from just having these two kind of extremes of thought or belief or whatever pit against each other.
Yeah. I think the other one that really stuck out this second time I watched it, because I definitely missed this the first time, was when they're drunk in the bedroom. It's pretty late in the movie, and they're Pattinson says, like, I just want a fucking steak. If I had a steak, I would fuck it. And Dafoe has this really amazing kind of look on his face of like confusion and like, whoa, that's okay, weird. And then he says, "But don't you like my cooking?" And Pattinson basically says no, without kind of saying it.
Way to set him off. And
that speech that he has is fucking nuts.
Yeah. It is. That's the one where he doesn't blink.
Yes. Dude, it is craziness. And ends with fucking Pattinson being like, "Have it your way, I like your cooking."
Yeah. Like, it's whatever, man. I was just messing with you. Like, chill out.
Like, I guess that's all sort of to say, like, the writing, I mean, it's everything, but the writing and the performance of this very difficult language is unbelievable to me. Those two motherfuckers are out of their minds.
The actors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, so it was written by Eggers and his brother? Is that right? Max?
Yeah, I forget his name, but yeah, his brother.
Man, they went for it.
Yeah, you're right, Max. Something just another thought I had just on that tension between them you're talking about is what got me about it, or just I don't know how general of a thing is this when I like it and other things too, but how at it represents for me kind of like what you've always said in other episodes, like at any given point, like we're just that close to like the brink of insanity. And I saw that more here in the context of, do you choose kind of like, it's either like love or hate, at any given moment, do you choose anger or like stepping back in terms of like fight or not kind of thing. And just that really got to me, whereas kind of like at any given point, you see that they can I just observed it so closely because it's just two people in a room.
Yeah.
But I felt like, whereas it was where Winslow, like an example I remember, I think where Winslow gets Wake to laugh. Do you remember that?
What is that point? Oh, fuck.
And it's, you just feel like, okay, as Wake, Willem Dafoe, is he gonna like punch him in the face here again or scream at him? But there's just something about that horror of that moment where I went, oh, thank goodness he chose laughter as a response.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it really is amazing, So, I mean, I guess it's all kind of to say that, like, watching all of the fucking aspects of a piece of work fire on all cylinders perfectly, maybe not perfectly, but like in such a beautiful way, is really pretty unusual. I mean, it's not that common. Because, like, you could say, like, between art direction, writing, directing, cinematography, performance, music, soundscape, like, every aspect of this movie is working with each other in, like, such a amazing, like, harmonious way.
It's a testament to taking your time in pre-production, is
I
what
bet.
I gathered from the behind the scenes. My last thing I really wanted to talk about, Tim, was the farts.
Okay. Something near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. And a lot more than your heart, too. Okay. I'm going to have this is another take on it, alternative take. People saying, like, a friend of me said, oh, it's the best fart jokes in recent movies. I was affected way differently from the farts. I didn't see them as jokes. It felt to me like it was just so utterly true to the character. Like, it was like, Willem Dafoe's the farty old sea shanty just became like how Tim's, farty Tim always fart. Like it's just that made that much more real. Like it felt like it was just a strong character choice in the moment. Like maybe it's a little like, feel like you have to giggles because that's what we have to do.
Funny, sure,
but then at the same time, it was oh my god, it's him farting! Woo! It wasn't that at all.
I'm with you. I had a very different like response to that stuff. It's the same thing as people chewing with their mouths full, or just belching, or just being kind of gratuitous as humans, where it's like they either are so incapable of their own self-awareness that from the outside I take it as I take offense to it in that it's disrespectful to your surroundings, and that, to what you're saying, is the character. Like, he is so in his world and his way of viewing the world that he doesn't even have the modicum of fucking, like, respect for the things around him. And yet, his whole character is set on telling this other person how to be.
Yeah.
So, like, there's this inherent just mind fuck around the character.
Well, I would have further using farts as a jumping off point for large thinking talking points and connect farts to how I think it was actually deeply spiritual. Okay. In the sense of, I see, or progressive is maybe a more graspable what I mean, where I think like the comparison I'll make to, let's say, like racist jokes, where you have people, who are, deeply, still racism is deeply embedded in them. I think an effective way we've evolved out of being racist, at least a part of it. I mean, it's mostly just through increased empathy overall and ever, but there's a certain like purging that can happen where, we hear, like there's this, whatever racist joke, cracks up the room however long ago, but now we're just kind of like, yeah, not only is it racist and horrible, but it's not funny.
Right.
We're past that.
Yeah.
And in that getting past the joke, we're now, as generations go by, hopefully less racist, being less, I could point it out, like I think less racist than our grandparents, we're inherently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having the farts be so matter of fact like that, yeah, I could see the filmmakers, I do think they were just like, oh, it's funny and it's grotesque, but really it does have that effect of like, it made farts not as funny as they always are to be. They became that much. It's like being around you. I've become like numb to farts.
Hey, when you're in my house.
and I'll compare it to the impact actually of the showing a toilet for the first time in Psycho. Maybe, farts aren't necessarily taboo, but as far as it's sort of progressing as a culture, like, hey guys, we all use toilets, get over it.
Yep.
Hey guys, we all fart, get over it.
Yeah.
It had that effect.
Yeah, and there's a time and a place, but also calm down.
Right. There's comedic timing. Farts will still,
Right.
I think are a long way from not being funny, but I do think it is, I could see, our grandkids just kind of being, like, oh, why do you think farts are so funny? Which people
Right.
already are.
Right. Yeah.
There's a spectrum.
That's funny. It's like the tipping point was Tropic Thunder.
I don't remember it.
One of the jokes in Tropic Thunder is Jack Black's character has made a career on like fart humor.
Yeah.
And he himself is like ashamed of that.
Oh, right.
And he's like, that's all anybody thinks of me as, and it's like, anyway. I'd just like to say just a brief rundown of amazing moments. The seagull being killed is fucking awesome. The masturbation scene is wild, and I think I just heard that was like the first scene they shot of Pattinson. Like that was his first scene.
Masturbation scene.
Now I've lost my train of thought. Shit.
I mean, when he puts the curse on him.
Yes, the curse, the lighthouse eyes thing.
Lighthouse eyes thing?
Yeah, Defoe being like Poseidon with the eyes. The tentacle, barnacle, mermaid fight scene thing. Whatever you call that. There you go. And then in particular, leading up to that shot, the crane shot or whatever you want to call it, up the lighthouse, him leading Willem Dafoe around as a dog and calling him dog after all of the
God.
like you dog stuff.
I forgot. That was so
and then
good.
Putting him in the grave and having Dafoe continue to talk while dirt is getting thrown in his face.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. And then having him jump in and dig him up as if he might want to save him, but it's just to grab the keys. Fucking A, man. This movie. Of course, last but not least, him taking out the pots of shit. And because the wind has changed and he's used to throwing them in a certain direction, when he throws them, all the shit goes back into his face.
The Big Lebowski moment.
Yeah. Oh, give me a break.
Right. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, him leading him around as a dog. That was great. I mean, and also I just got to say, like the climax, I'll say, that's leading up to, not the footnote as you put it of him dead lying there, but him reacting to opening the Fresnel lens. You could see that's a direct moment from but talk about collective consciousness. Remember, you've seen a short that I made is the exact same shot at the end of As They Moth Doth Roth.
Yeah.
Like that's what I wanted. It's just that exact like going. I want to see someone's brain breaking.
Yeah.
But then how he did it with the sound design of like getting distorted. That was some Twin Peaks: The Return stuff right there. Like next level. That was great.
It really was great. This movie was great, and I'm glad I watched it that second time.
I wish I could have. And I mean, you already kind of heard it, I'm sure, talking to you listening, but their performances were great. I just felt like just had to say that. And him getting the dirt thrown on his face while still speaking, that's what reminded me to say that.
Yeah. Well,
let's move on.
We could talk way more. That's the fucking crazy thing, but let's move on to things that did not work.
It is not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
I think the only thing that I can really say is in both viewings, it's circumstantial. I found myself getting tired. And so I'm not sure how much of that is just me being tired.
Seeing it at 9 p.m. Yeah.
I mean, both times I watched it was late after
that
full
was
day of work.
so
it was
late.
hard.
When just seeing the 8:30 show, I was like, I was already in a dream state that late these days.
Well, and I chugged that beer before we went in.
Me
That was
too.
a mistake.
I'm like, I can't do that because I'll have to get up and go to the bathroom too.
But I think that's really it. Is just I don't think that there's a solution. I think you just have to be, ready to sit down for this movie.
It's more like a critique just on how you were at the time.
Yeah, it really is.
Which is
the thing
insane.
that did not work. I was tired.
Yeah. Well, the thing, I mean, this is, I think, the kind of movie that'll only grow on me too. Is that this is not I didn't have anything that did. I just wrote, I'll have to get back to you on that in my notes.
Fair enough.
Because I mean, even I kind of see what you mean. Where when you're seeing the scenes for the first time, it's just like I'm only catching like a half of the dialogue, if that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's going to reward those viewings. And now that we've talked about it, and I'm going to be having this lens through it, pun kind of intended. I don't know. It's not going to.
I caught quite a few more words.
Yeah.
The second time, I was like, I'm way more on board with what the fuck they're saying.
It's not like the second time I see it, I'm not going to be caught up on the word wiki every single time I hear it.
Right.
I mean, I guess I'll just. I forgot
to mention when fucking Pattinson gets axed in the shoulder too.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, best axe chase since The Shining.
Jesus.
Right? So I mean, when we don't really have anything for what didn't work, I almost kind of like want to bring up some critiques that I have heard and just kind of see if we refute them.
Sure.
And so a friend of ours I won't mention by name, but I just talked to him about it, and he said I wasn't as taken with it. I just kind of wanted more. He wanted more to happen. It sounded like, or felt like he wanted was expecting. Oh well, where's? He said it was exactly what he was expecting. Like, well, where's the extra unexpected thing?
Like a monster?
It could be anything.
Huh.
I think...
I guess I can kind of understand that.
I feel like
with a movie that feels so kind of nutso.
Right.
In the way that Possession did, it's like we kind of got like the monster to a certain degree. We got to sort of see the thing. And so I can see people wanting that. I
feel where he's coming from, where I did see it, and I came out of it like that's exactly that felt for me. It's but my reaction, I think I feel what he's feeling, but rather than saying that's what I expected in like a negative way, I say that was exactly what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's an alternative? I think it'd be cool if like a kraken actually had come out of the sea at the end. But then I'm like, but that's not this movie.
Right. Or yeah, exactly. Or like some other twist of like, or like one of them actually getting away, or someone else shows up on the island.
Yeah, I just feel like it just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Like maybe something, no. I was going to say something more with like what the discovery in the lighthouse, in the light is. But fuck that, dude. The way it, like, the result that we got is just way better.
Maybe we'll ask him. I'm sure maybe he'll be happy to record a critique of exactly what he meant, and we could play it on one of our next episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if I might have felt maybe closer to that sentiment if I had only seen it the one time.
Well, and even then, though, you missed things, so it's like...
Well, that's for sure.
So that would not have been a fair critique.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, whatever. To each his own, I guess.
Yeah.
But I can't really see a different version that would have made me like it more.
Ditto. Well, should we do our next section then? Because I got some stuff for that.
Yeah.
Things of note.
This should be interesting.
So, I mean, as I said, I just like spent all this morning watching interviews, and then I read what I could too. So I normally like to credit exactly where things came from, but it's all kind of a mishmash. But do you have anything, or do you want me to just do my rant?
No. I mean, I think, I don't really have anything.
Okay. I thought it was fun. In one of the interviews, Eggers, he described the film as it's grotesque, juvenile, and over the top, and those were intentional choices. I liked that. And where he said The Witch tried to be subtle, he tried to do the exact opposite here, where The Witch was about hiding the camera, and here was about, using it as much as possible.
Yeah.
that made me go, oh, yeah.
Can I say
yeah.
to that point, I much, much prefer the style of this movie than The Witch. I know a lot of people like The Witch. I'm still kind of whatever about
Right.
it.
Oh, the friend I mentioned who had that critique of this film liked The Witch way better, whatever
Well, there you go.
context that means. But honestly, I think, the kind of the filmmaker who, and I think this maybe I'd like to think I'm one of them, and it's because it's a lesson I feel like I've been learning too, but maybe the person who has more tendencies to kind of like hold back, it behooves them to actually do more. Mm-hmm. Think of like Kubrick,
Sure.
where he's, like mild mannered,
Yeah.
But in broad strokes, I'm talking about people. But then you look at, the extremity of where he goes, and similarity with this. It was funny in an interview, Willem Dafoe, it sounded like he was trying to make a point to mention that that he was wearing false teeth, because people like didn't know that. And he, for him, it's obvious, but so he's just kind of letting the record be known that his teeth aren't actually that bad.
I assume both of them had false teeth in.
Okay. Okay. Actually, this is something I wanted to bring up when it was applicable to our discussion earlier. Remember what you were saying about the sort of the generational divide almost of the someone later in age being like finding peace and meaning behind doing the work in front of them and being more present, and then the younger people being more like, yeah, but I want more, or
right.
what else we got. That sounded like that was really reflected in their sort of approaches and acting style to the film, where Willem Dafoe was all about like he could rehearse and like do and would do it like full on every time. He loved it. And like at the end of their 1 week of rehearsals, it's from like 9 to 7, Willem Dafoe would be all pumped up still by the end, even though he was giving it his all, and Robert Pattinson's more like didn't really, it wasn't crazy, but was like always saving it or thinking of like, I'm really going to wait for the shoot actually, like, and then that was also, but it was cool. It was interesting how they're pointing out that was reflective in their characters too, and that was similar where Willem Dafoe, he talked about like what am I trying to say? Oh yeah, how their characters, like Willem Dafoe is the one always like giving it all, and Robert Pattinson is the one kind of receiving it and keeping it all in. So as far as if you look at that as like someone throwing their energy on someone, Willem Dafoe said at the end of every day he just felt like he had a great day and was all set for bed, and Robert Pattinson said he was all worked up and felt like going clubbing, like just needing some kind of release as tiring as the days already were.
Interesting.
Oh, then this was funny too. In that same interview, Pattinson, he said he's terrified of like dancing in the terms of his hell is someone who keeps asking him to dance. Oh, and then talk about too, like their approaches were in the week of rehearsal. Robert Pattinson, he like thought they had 3 weeks of rehearsal in the hotel room, and talk about like art imitating life of how long has it been. I thought that was pretty funny. And then when Willem Dafoe and Robert Eggers were like, hey, dude, that was actually just a week, he was like, what? Like, no way, that was just a week.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It was cool. The lighthouse they built they built it. It was
nice.
completely
I wondered about that.
from scratch, and it was fully operational too. And
Jesus.
The direction for it, like it could shine like 15 miles or however much it needed to actually. And one of the directions for building it was, can you make it as tall as possible without it being a hazard, of getting winded over or whatever.
Does it say where it was specifically shot?
It does. I'm bad with names, so I didn't even bother writing them down, but like Nova Scotia.
Oh.
He said it was a volcanic.
Leif Erikson Park, Cape Fortune, Nova Scotia.
Yeah, you said it was
Cool.
volcanic. I thought was interesting. They were asked what was the most challenging part for film to each of them. I always think that's an interesting question. And Robert Pattinson, it's one that is the exact kind of thing you wouldn't expect at all, but when you think about it, it makes sense. It was when he was running to see the mermaid, and he said to have to sprint like that over that rocky terrain.
Yeah.
He said he had never felt so where just like life, his life was in the hands of just someone else, just having to run and hope he doesn't fall on his face because of how rocky that terrain was, and the period shoes that he was wearing made it that much.
I thought about that a couple times in those shoes specifically. I was like, this looks fucking tough.
And Willem's answer to most challenging was, he said this a few times, it's not pleasant to be buried alive. And
no shit.
they did 2 takes of that, I believe, and that was shot on day 2.
Jesus Christ. I guess get it out of the way, right?
Yeah. So the origin of it was like years ago. Robert Eggers' little brother Max, who's I think like 5 or 7 years younger, was working on writing a ghost story set at a lighthouse. And it was like, modern set in an actual ghost story. But he said, like, Robert Eggers asked him how it was going. And he said he hadn't been figuring it out. So they decided to work on it together. And that's when it evolved into what it was. And it was interesting. Robert Eggers said he just kind of had started just kind of from a visceral feel place of sort of like feeling like, okay, I had to see these like 2 dudes, black and white, in the room with the wood at this lighthouse, and he really just built it from that imagery and feel. The whole film. Yeah. Oh yeah, this will be interesting to you, I think, on the technical side. So back, they stopped making, I think it was like in 1950, what they called like an orthochromatic film, which is film where it's a stock that it reads ultraviolet light more. So like blemishes can be seen like more clearly, and it doesn't record red light as much. So like red in the face looks a little darker, and it also makes blue lighter. So skies will be a lot more stark. So that's why like in old film things that you had especially a lot of makeup was to cover the red in the face.
Oh shit.
So since that film doesn't exist anymore, though, they made a custom filter, I guess, that replicated that.
Okay.
For shooting on film. That
Very
was cool. Okay, one thing really gave me pause to like I don't know, was there an animal actions more monitored thing at the end of this film, I wonder, because maybe I just misread the room in the context of this, but a woman asked, and it seemed like in a joking way, like working with the animals, like were any of them harmed kind of thing, and she kind of said it in a joking way. It was weird. And Willem Dafoe was like, only these 2 animals, as a joke. And then Robert Eggers, as people were laughing at Willem Dafoe's response, Robert Eggers was just kind of like, next question, please.
Uh-oh.
Did not feel good about that.
So that was a real seagull getting smashed.
No, that actually was a rubber chicken.
I figured it was, yeah.
But it just gave me... I'd like to know what... I'd like to have that moment clarified, is all. It was cool how kind of it came to be Willem, Willem, first name base, Willem.
You guys are buds.
Reached out to Robert Eggers after seeing The Witch. He said like he was just kind of walked into a multiplex to see a movie, saw The Witch, and was like, I want to meet this dude, and
fair.
Something. That's how it came up.
Did you ever see Antichrist with him?
I want to.
Oh, dude. I mean, I can see Willem Dafoe seeing The Witch and being like, this is right up my alley.
Yeah,
based
cool.
on things like Antichrist. And Willem Dafoe was, I think, maybe a founder of the Worcester Group, which is a theater group in New York that I saw a nutso fucking production at once. But like very much
cool.
All of those things are kind of in the same realm.
He clicked for me more too. I learned actually he's starring in a new Abel Ferrara movie. I didn't know there's a new Abel Ferrara movie, but knowing he wanted to work with a filmmaker like him too.
That's cool.
All plugs in. Oh, and I mentioned, Robert Eggers building it around the atmosphere of the dinner scene, how that thread continued, how the early origin of the movie came together, was then he sort of plugged that into an old folklore sea shanty thing where it was like also, though, maybe a true story as they go, where it's based on a story where there's two people named Thomas, an old one and a young one, and the old one dies and the young one goes crazy.
Okay.
That was a big point of inspiration. And then that led him thinking about identity, and then that led him thinking about, okay, then have a mermaid, a mystery in the Fresnel lens, and a foghorn. And then those are the early ingredients to the soup.
Awesome.
It was fun to hear Willem Dafoe, and I'm guessing Robert Pattinson too, they weren't staying in any like nearby hotel or anything. They were staying really close to the location. Willem described it as like his wife was gone. It was just him. He was staying at a little fishing cottage that was close to the set. So they would just kind of like go to work, then go off by themselves and stay in this little fishing cottage.
Sounds pretty
Very
cool.
much like the Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I like this a lot. I think this must have been, I think it was Robert Pattinson talking. But I've never done a movie like this where you were never told to tone it down ever. It provokes a really kind of primal instinct in you when you've got a fire hose in your face and you're kind of like, I don't know, you really rage against it. It's kind of fun. And that's just, again, to talk connected to our discussion about pretense and filmmakers like Kubrick. I'm just... yeah, man, I'm all about the more, Jack Nicholson. Great. Them doing what they do in this movie.
I mean, the luxury of time that you have on a production of this size is just like a dream to me. Mm-hmm. Because like pretty much everything I've ever shot, we really never have time for more than about 3 takes of any shot. Like if you're lucky. You're on the clock and like,
yeah,
you only have a couple days to finish it or whatever the circumstances are. So the idea that you could sit and really, because one thing I personally just love is working performance with an actor. Like it's so fun for me. And when you're short on time, you kind of you're like, hope it's good.
Well, the sense that I got was they really did the work in rehearsals of whatever work that, then goes out the window as soon as you're there on the day. Right. But that because of the space that they were in, they were like, pretty fixed in their blocking a lot of the times. But Willem Dafoe, he sounded like he really loved that. That helped him as like those constraints brought out, more in a way. And this was in Robert Eggers didn't ask me anything on Reddit. And this question was, and this connects to when I said this is the thing I said I'd reveal at the end as far as an interesting thing about his character. Robert Eggers' characters. The question was, this might be too personal. I understand if you'd rather not discuss it, but could you describe your religious spiritual beliefs or lack thereof? What kind of faith, if any, do you have? How do those beliefs or lack thereof influence your work? Eggers responds, respectfully, I'm going to keep that to myself. But as stated above, another question, folk tales, fairy tales, religion, the occult. These are the things I'm most passionate about, even more than cinema. Ooh. So combine that with he looks like a warlock. He only wears black. He has like a necklace you can see with something holding on. He has multiple rings. This dude is very much into the occult and magic with a K is what I've inferring from all that.
Cool. Yeah.
And I have the most important one to end it on. I have one more, Tim.
Great.
Someone asked, were the farts real? Which I thought was ridiculous. Like, why? Like, how would that be? But to my surprise, Willem Dafoe, he looked very coy and then just said, half and half.
Jesus. That would be liberating to be on a set where your character can just let it fly.
Yeah, it was funny because then another time someone asked him like, "Oh, the farts." I don't know why people think that. And he's like, "Oh no," but he's like, "Oh, but they were kind of like pushing him on like he's like, "Oh, but I can." He kind of said winkingly, "I could if I needed to."
He's trained. He's a trained actor.
Forget crying on command.
That's the true art of acting. If you can fucking fart on command, you have you have arrived.
Yeah. Anything else for you? Just observations before we put a...
If you didn't know, it won the Cannes Film Festival. I think that's right.
No, it was Director's Fortnight.
Oh,
It was
Director's
out
Fortnight.
of competition.
Wait, what? What's that mean? It says so what does that mean? That's a different thing. Cool.
I mean, no, but before we close the book, any other thoughts at all? Things you didn't say?
Not really. We got to see the lantern
Yeah,
at the Arclight.
the actual
that
prop
was
they
pretty
built.
cool.
We'll post a picture on our Instagram.
Yeah.
I was pretty excited. That was cool seeing.
No, I think that pretty well covers it, for me at least.
Well then, should we move on from the Lighthouse to our RecommenDEADtions?
Yes. Shit.
I have one.
What's yours?
I watched on Shudder Joe Bob Briggs hosting. Just been watching, horror movies pretty exclusively this month rather than half and half like a normal month.
Right.
I kind of figured this film had like a sort of new cult following because the new Beverly was playing it. But Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
Okay, I've heard of it.
It's a just super fun 80s slasher. The story's great. It's got the slasher elements, but then it also is very supernatural in a kind of Nightmare on Elm Street way of really fun set pieces. And I found it just kind of, if you like the vibe, 80s slashers, and you're looking for, okay, yeah, but what's one that'll actually, is good in the sense that they are or can
Right.
be. That's one that's up there. Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. Check it
Cool.
out.
I think, based on this movie, if you haven't seen The Seventh Seal, you should go see it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you should see it. It's, and if you've just watched The Lighthouse, The Seventh Seal will be, I think, quite interesting and pleasing for you. So that's going to be mine. It's Ingmar Bergman's, originally a play, but he made it into a
I've watched
movie.
most of his big ones back in film school, but then like a few years ago, I started going through just his movies one by one. I didn't get far. I need to just pick up where I left off.
They're sometimes a bit of a task.
I really liked some of the, I think it was Summer with Monica and Summer Interlude were two that just, I don't know, kind of overlap in my memory, but something, again, like bringing a lot of pretense to things I really enjoy of.
What's
this case, Summer
There's
Romance.
one with Grace Kelly, right? There's a famous one with her.
Let's not. When neither of us are experts, I feel like let's just save ourselves.
That's the other one that I
embarrassment, Tim.
remember vaguely. But the Seventh Seal is like, you got to see that.
Cool. Well, it's my turn to pull from the hat. Should I do that?
You should.
Next week we will be watching Trench 11 from 2017.
Whoa.
Something from World War One or two, I'm sure. One of us got from a list, but I don't know much about it.
I don't either.
Great. We'll find out about it next week.
Maybe there will be Nazis and killings.
Well, there better be. Have you seen Overlord yet?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I rewatched it again.
Oh, nice.
So good.
Cool.
You liked it, right?
I did like it.
Great.
I wanted more.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, give me a sequel.
Cool. All right.
All right, well, in the meantime, you can find us at dismemberinghorror.com.
Yeah, that's true. You could email us at dismemberinghorror@gmail.com.
That means, Tim, we should actually check our emails and respond to that one email we've gotten. How about, can you do that still?
Okay.
And yeah, we have an Instagram at dismemberinghorror, a Twitter at dishorrorpod that we don't really use too much. We just link the Instagram there.
Yeah.
But I encourage you, Tim, to do it if you want.
I'm trying to engage more on Twitter, just personally.
It's fun on a horror scene, because that's can all be friends there.
So far, most of my tweets are to politicians that I don't like, telling them that they're pieces of shit. Is that a bit good or bad policy, do you think?
If it helps you, then great. put that out there.
Yeah, well,
I guess that's
it's
it.
liberating.
Right?
That's it.
All right. Well, then, in closing, thank you all for listening.
We will see you next time. Goodbye.